Tom Cruise is a freak of nature. Over the years, we've seen Cruise as Ethan Hunt jump from inconceivable heights and put his life on the line more than any 22-year-old bodybuilder ever would be willing to do. He has snuck into building after building, managing to play 20 sides against one another and ultimately come out on top without ever developing too much of an ego to be reliable. Ethan has committed to metatextual causes, saving his own world and ours with commentary on the greed of corporations and especially governments, a fact which is exceedingly relevant to this final movie. Mission Impossible is an important franchise for its thrills and its devotion, creating consistently positive and entertaining films which follow a strict formula but never fail to surprise nonetheless. Now, at this moment, the franchise is over. Ethan has taken on the last mission that we will see, attacking the prospect of artificial intelligence as our new creator, having the security to hold the power of God in his hands and not take advantage of it. The final reckoning follows up on Ethan's conflict with Gabriel, an old enemy from his past who wishes to control the entity, and it does so with some of the series' most thrilling sequences ever. But first, we have to start with its biggest flaw. You know how I've been essentially discussing the most impactful moments of the franchise and what it means as a whole during my intro? Yeah, well, that's the same thing this movie does. As you're sure to see from popular reviews, the first half of this movie was not very well received, and I certainly understand why. I don't personally get the decision to have countless flashbacks and references which interrupt the flow of the movie, since I feel like the final movie in a franchise should assume the audience is familiar. There are a few important callbacks, such as when Gabriel discusses Ethan stealing the rabbit's foot in MI3, given that it is directly relevant to why he is the cause of the entity's existence. However, for every vital flashback, there are about 3 that are absolutely useless, especially ones which throw back to literally the previous movie, such as Ethan saving Paris. I rewatched Fallout and Dead Reckoning in preparation for this film's release, and now it feels like I didn't even have to. But honestly, the bigger issue that these flashbacks cause is completely disrupting the film's pacing. The first 30 minutes are truly all over the place. To begin, Ethan is hiding out like he always does, then he immediately comes back, then the boys are breaking Paris out of prison, then Ethan and Grace go after Gabriel and get caught, and then the credits hit. And during all this is when the majority of those flashbacks happen, nearly making my head spin with the amount of jumping back and forth, and I'm already sick. Personally, I think all of these flashbacks needed to be scrapped entirely in service of one major flashback which we never truly see, being Ethan and Gabriel's past. We get more inferences as to what initially happened, enough that it is pretty clear to piece together, yet I find it strange that there was little elaboration on that story piece while we instead got dozens of clips from previous films. Okay, I didn't give a spoiler warning before, but now I very much will. Big spoilers ahead. The most major moment of the first half of this movie is something I'm sure all us Mission Impossible fans saw coming: the death of Luther. Luther Stickle has been Ethan's bestest friend since the very first film, and it is painful to see him go, especially considering how early he leaves this movie, though I have to give the filmmakers, and especially Ving Rhames, credit for making it work nonetheless. Gabriel is run out of his own hideout by Ethan's team, though Luther, who has developed an unspecified illness between movies, is isolated, meaning that, of course, Gabriel targets him. Luther, who has been consistently willing to sacrifice himself for basically the entire series, helps Ethan to escape and makes sure that Gabriel's trap will kill only him. During this scene, Ving Rhames plays into Luther's kindness so effectively since he doesn't have one bit of fear. He speaks to Ethan casually when he arrives, having accepted his fate possibly before he was even trapped, and when Ethan realizes his intentions, he turns it on him and soothes him as if he is the one who needs to be cared for. Ethan and Luther's brotherly love is such a major part of this film, and even though they only have a few scenes together, I can definitely say that this movie both develops and reestablishes how much they matter to each other, and I feel that this exit for Luther was extremely respectful for his character. Additionally, Luther's poison pill being stolen makes for a perfect MacGuffin, along with the Sevastopol boat itself, doubling up on the amount of iconic sequences in the second half of the movie. On Ethan's side of things, I feel like this film is definitely a faithful send-off for him as well. This could be easily considered Ethan's most difficult mission given the amount of opposition he receives. I very much enjoy the intensity of giving Gabriel his own group of devotees who have planted themselves amongst the government, making trusting anyone essentially impossible unless we already know them. I feel like this plays well into Ethan's arc of sorts, which I would say is his final understanding of his role to protect the world even in uncertainty. Despite the fact that nearly nobody supports Ethan during this movie, he gets his job done nonetheless, with or without them, and he remains respectful and devoted to the cause. By the end, Luther's message to Ethan includes a few very important lines. One is the thing which they constantly repeat to each other, being, "For those we'll never meet," while the other is "driving without question towards a light we cannot see." Both imply a similar meaning, being that most people will never know Ethan, and he will never know them. He may never see the perfect world that he wants, and he will never be understood. He joined the IMF recognized as a murderer, and that status hasn't changed. He doesn't lawyer up like a few good men and save his name, because his name isn't the thing that matters. At the end, Ethan takes the entity for himself, which I feel lukewarm on, but ultimately it's true that I wouldn't trust anybody else with it. And it well represents his decision to hold the fate of the world in his grasp without anyone ever knowing, and still remaining the incredible man that he is. Now, on to the stunts. Stunts are always a major aspect of Mission Impossible films, and Final Reckoning is not lacking in that department. Once again, the first half is not generally the strongest. I enjoy the prison fight and Ethan's jump from a helicopter into the middle of the fucking ocean, though both are pretty brief. The real winners come later, with the plane climax with Gabriel feeling like a very solid and frightening conclusion. Gabriel as a villain never really began to work from a dramatic lens, so in a way it's probably good that they went full comedic with him in this movie and had him die by bumping his head too hard. Plus, Ethan saving the entire world by pressing a button while plummeting hundreds of miles towards the ground is about the most fitting way things could have wrapped up. I actually had thought he was going to bite it at a certain point, but of course the man always carries 2 parachutes. He's no amateur. However, the real centerpiece of this movie is Ethan's infiltration of the Sevastopol. During this scene, there are no lines, only creaking and movement. Just like the previous film's Train, the Sevastopol has multiple rooms, each with a different character to them. Easily my favorite is the room containing inactive missiles, which fall just like the piano in the aforementioned Train, sparking some of the most intensity I've ever felt in the series. My favorite moment, though, is the ending in which Ethan, the madman, takes off his oxygen tank in order to cram himself through a claustrophobic tunnel and escape while water pours in behind him. I adore how creative these films can get with set pieces, showing that Ethan puts his life on the line constantly, but never without a plan in mind. Truly, the Sevastopol invasion could have been a short film all on its own, and immediately raised my hopes tenfold for the film, which were already pretty high after the house burning down stunt with the rest of our characters. Speaking of which, the rest of our characters. Our supporting cast here is definitely a ragtag group of misfits, being the first time we've ever seen a group without an Ethan or a Luther, and their arcs work to varying degrees in my mind. Benji, to me, is a major W in this movie, as he repeatedly takes on the position of leader in a sort of metatextual fashion. Simon Pegg performing his own dangerous stunts shows his level of evolution from a goofy sidekick to Ethan Hunt Jr. during the franchise, and the climax, in which he simultaneously saves the world and guides his own surgery, is yet another memorable moment. It kind of reminds me of the Wolverine of all movies, in which Logan performed surgery on himself in the heat of the climax. Bizarre medical procedures are a trope which not enough action movies are tapping into. Degas, partner of Briggs, defects almost immediately, rendering his arc more of a spike. I enjoy him enough in this, but it could have been better if he was more questioning of Ethan's plans instead of just instantly down for everything. Briggs, on the other hand, has a fantastic arc. The reveal of him being Jim Phelps' son is a bit strange, but it ties back to the first movie well, and the fact that he is with legacy members of that first film the entire time, being Kittredge and Ethan, and is able to see Kittredge's corrupt behavior, makes the two's final handshake very satisfying. Grace is another character who I feel was a bit off in this movie, mostly just because of her awkward push to the forefront despite how recently she was introduced. Haley Atwell is great, and I do think Grace has generally strong charisma in scenes, but her role is just strange as a stand-in love interest. I'm happy they never went full in on her and Ethan, but it's definitely implied, and I don't care for that. I've always been an Ilsa-Ethan believer at heart, and I didn't really want him to get a rebound after her death. Erica Sloane as the president was a fairly surprising move to pull between films, though I can say that her contributions to the movie are flawless from top to bottom. Angela Bassett is one of the greats, so seeing her get a much more emotional part than she did in Fallout felt like a perfect acceleration of her character. Her flip-flopping made sense considering her history with Ethan, and her final decision to keep the United States peaceful and hopeful instead of aggressive speaks volumes nowadays. Finally, Paris. Paris is my favorite. Pom Klementieff is really the mini Tom Cruise, taking on some of the most engaging fight scenes in the film after establishing her psychopathic yet charismatic behavior in this film's predecessor. I absolutely love her, and my hopes for her were high going into this one. Having now seen it all, I can ultimately say that I do love every bit of Paris that we get once again. But there are many missed opportunities with her. Don't get me wrong, I'm not crazy. I don't think Paris should have been pushed heavily, not even past Grace. Yet her arc concludes so anticlimactically. I enjoy her performing surgery on Benji and saving a life for once, but I can't help but feel like Paris killing Gabriel would have been far more satisfying than Ethan getting the kill, or I guess a plane getting it. The ultimate payoff to me would be Ethan sparing Gabriel for the greater good, an act of decency he never would have expected, only for him to get murked by Paris due to his own choice to betray her. Now with that rant over, let's wrap things up. Mission Impossible 8 is a bit of a mess, but it's a beautiful mess, and I'm sure that if you are a franchise fan, you'll love it. Despite the tweaks I would have made, I find it bizarre that some reception is saying that this movie is a waste of time when it is anything but. Even though MI8 is not a perfect movie by any means, it's damn near close a perfect send-off, especially to its OG cast. Ethan, Luther, and Benji are all given very intelligent journeys, which finish strong in the end to communicate the overall mission of the series. No matter how many obstacles stand in your way, the pursuit of what you know to be right is right. Mission Impossible should not be viewed as a franchise for dumb action lovers. If you watch one movie, you may think that, but if you watch all of them, the behind the scenes, the interviews with the cast, and on, you will understand how much heart is behind these projects. MI is Tom Cruise's brainchild, and the man has proven himself to be the man of movies, the face of films, and more and more and more. The cast and crew love one another, respect one another, and promote one another whenever they can. Mission Impossible is one big happy family. My favorite fact to discover from this movie is that not only is the eccentric Tremel Tillman playing a surprisingly important role here, which he kills, obviously, but Sidney Cole Alexander, also of Severance fame, graced the screen as well with her creepy little smile. Things like that just go to show how much of this franchise is friends hanging out together and loving what they do. I'm sad to see Mission Impossible go, but I think the community it built remains. Bye now.